What is up, my good people here at Beyond the Veil? Just wanted to do a quick little post EDC video for you guys and gals. Backseat's a little bit of a mess. Sheree and I are both exhausted. We must have walked, what, 5
Oh my
miles
god, it felt
minimum?
like it, yeah.
Yeah, we were walking from stage to stage to stage to stage. So, I wanted to uh, just kind of give a little bit of breakdown of what happened at EDC. First of all, we used our press passes and got all access pass everywhere, which was freaking awesome. So we were able to get backstage of pretty much everywhere. We spent a few minutes talking to Tiesto. I got his phone number, and we might hook up here in a little bit. I met a couple of the other artists. I have to admit that I wasn't familiar with too many of them. We ran into an interesting situation with Dead Mouse, though. His producer's name is Chris, and his manager's name is Chris, too. And Chris said, hey, I'm here, I'm backstage, come over here. I'm wearing a big cowboy hat. We go backstage, and Dead Mouse is on, and we're like, hey, can we get on the stage with Dead Mouse? You know, just as part of his entourage, you know, things like that. And Chris comes down, and he's like, hey, I'm Chris, I don't know you. And I'm like, well, you're not the Chris I'm looking for. I'm looking for the guy with the cowboy hat. And he's like, well, you know, I run the show, and I'm sorry, I just don't know you guys. I can't let you guys on stage. And I was like, okay, cool. So then we had no text signal in there. We had no cell phone signal, and texts were just barely going through. So I finally got a hold of Chris, and Chris was like, oh, no, 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 hey, no, I'm chilling up in the VIP section. And I was like, well, fuck, we were just at the VIP section. And then we had to go over to the other stage because Tiesto was on, and I admit I'm not too much of a fan of Tiesto. I respect him very much. I like what he does, but actually what he was spinning tonight was actually pretty hardcore, though. And it made me rethink music a little bit because I noticed there were multiple stages there. And there was a drum and bass stage, which I thought drum and bass was like pretty much dead. There was a dubstep stage, and dubstep is kind of a thing of the past too. And there was a hardstyle stage. Hardstyle is about 150 beats per minute. It's really boom, 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 boom. And I thought that style died like in 2010, but no, they had specific stage for that. Then they had this one really cool stage, and it wasn't even a stage, it was a tent. And it looked like an old school rave. It was so freaking cool. The vibe was 90s rave. They were playing hard techno music, psytrance, you know, things like that. And we stayed there most of the time because that when we were walking around, I was telling Cherie, hey, this is a festival. This is nothing like what raves are. Then when we came across that one area, it was set up just like a rave. People were dancing like it was a rave. The DJ booth was kind of dark, and there was a lot of lasers. Like I remember the laser shows. When I used to throw raves, that was my big thing. I wanted big lasers all over the place, and I wanted them to be able to make words and, you know, do stuff like that. They did have some pretty cool pyrotechnics, and they had this big owl
Oh, that was
on the
cool.
main stage, and this big owl would open its eyes, move around, and then they projected this owl up in the sky too, and this owl started opening its
Wings.
wings and closing its wings, and it was a really cool light show. Unfortunately, we saw it from backstage because they did this right when Tiesto was coming off, and we wanted to be backstage to hang out with Tiesto for a little bit. So we have some pretty cool video from backstage of pretty much all the stages. And we actually have some video of Tiesto, a couple of the other artists, while we're in front of the stage. So, you know, you have the audience barrier, then you have that section that's right there. So we've got some cool videos of us walking up and down the audience barrier. They had some dancers, and the dancers were going on stage, and we were able to follow them with our camera, go upstage with them, and we
Yeah.
didn't walk onto the stage, but, you know, you get to see what happens backstage and as they're preparing. And it's pretty interesting because they were dancers, and they were doing these like butterfly type things,
Yeah.
and they actually went out doing their routine before they even enter the main stage where they're visible. So they're
Yeah.
already in
In
motion, they're
character.
already in
Yeah.
character, they're already all that. Of course, there was a lot of eye candy. It was beautiful. A lot of beautiful girls of all shapes and sizes.
Oh
I was
yeah.
actually pretty surprised, but a lot of them were wearing thongs, some of them were wearing garter belts, typical festival club wear.
Hmm.
And it was actually nice to see some of the bigger girls confident enough to wear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and not only that, but I saw girls in wheelchairs wearing the skimpiest, sexiest outfits, the hottest girls that you've ever seen, having the time of their life, just enjoying themselves, not worrying about what anybody's thinking about what they're in or what they're doing, just having the time of their life and having a freaking blast. And I looked at one of them. I was like, I was like, I fist bumped at her, and I was like, girlfriend, I just want to say good for you for coming out tonight. I'm, kind of in the same boat, and I'm proud of us both for coming out here and just saying, fuck it, let's just enjoy ourselves and be in the moment.
Well, I'm really proud of you because, Cherie has a lot of physical issues,
Yeah.
and she managed to push through. We had to take a lot of breaks. We had to pace ourselves.
Yeah.
But because we had backstage access to everything, we got to use very, very, very clean toilets. So she has to go to the bathroom like every 20 minutes.
I know it's
It's like, ugh. But very clean toilets and complimentary
their
water as
amenities were
well. That
really
was
nice.
like
Yeah.
ice cold. The amenities were nice.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there wasn't like a nice backstage lounge or anything like that for
Yeah,
the
that was the only thing
artists.
missing. Yeah.
Tiesto, when he came out, we had a little chat. Then he left literally in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, he didn't
It
spend
was
very
just
much
like
time at all.
at the snap of a finger, and that was the only person who I was really interested in meeting because he lives here in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and I'd like to make a connection with him and Dead Mouse as well. And I'm not too much of a fan of Dead Mouse's music either. But I know somebody who is part of his crew, and so that would be somebody to meet and hang out with,
Hmm.
and all of that. But again, we had that weirdness happen, which I just talked to Christopher, and he said, "Oh, I'll clear it up with Chris and Dead Mouse
Yeah.
and all them." No, I'm sorry. He was in a different place. He wasn't on stage with them.
Yeah, and
So yeah.
so it really was just a case of a classic mix up,
It was it was a mix up.
Yeah.
But everybody was pretty cool with us,
Yeah.
and the vibe was pretty good. There were a lot less people than I expected, but right around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, more and more people started showing up.
Yeah,
But at the
filling
very
in.
beginning, we were walking around and it looked pretty empty. I mean, empty considering what it is.
Right. And yours
And
previously.
the thing is, there were 200 headliners, and they wound up with, I think, 75.
No, it ended up being about
Oh,
120.
120,
Yeah.
120, because so many people canceled. And it was really interesting because I'm wondering, why did they cancel? Are they in the know that something is going on? Sheree and I, of course, being conspiracy minded, we were thinking, well, maybe there's going to be some kind of event there. Maybe there's going to be some kind of breakout. Maybe there's going to be,
Yeah.
something. And these headliners are like in tune with what's going on. Or they could be on one or the other side of the COVID passports and mandatory vaccines,
Yeah.
or at least mandatory negative COVID test.
Yeah.
And
Not like that.
and some of the headliners may have just been like, hey, you know what, I'm not going along with this. Or maybe some of the headliners were like, well, I'm not going to go do a show with, in the middle of a pandemic and getting the potential of getting COVID and, everything like that. But I didn't see anybody sick there. I didn't see
No.
anybody, having any issues or anything like that. There were multiple stages, a lot more than I expected.
Hmm.
Some really small, some really large. Benny
Yeah.
Benassi played too.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to meet Benny Benazzi. Tom S. What is life like outside of the machine? Um, I don't know. Well, I might get into that here in just a second, but let me stay on topic if you don't mind for a minute about what life is like in the machine. Um, the um, um, the vibe was pretty cool. However, it was a festival vibe,
Hmm.
and the thing is, growing up in the 90s, going to 90s raves, there's a certain atmosphere, a certain flow, a certain vibe. And that vibe was found in that one tent it wasn't like a tent, it was like I mean, I don't know how to describe this, but there was this park, and they had this big auditorium like area, but it wasn't enclosed. It was just covered, and it looked like a tent, but it was actually very large. And it reminded me of that, and that vibe was there. Green laser lights and just all of that. We did see some interesting symbolism there, though. And the symbolism is what I wanted to talk about real quick while I'm fresh out of the experience. So, just for the record, we didn't really take anything tonight
No.
because my focus was to go over there and try to secure a DJ set. And I went to all the different stages, and they treated me great, especially the first guy I talked to. And he said, "Man, no, unfortunately, we're completely booked, and everybody's shown up." Because I was thinking to myself, there's got to be some headliners that don't show up, and there's got to be some open slots. But then we started looking at the schedule, and the schedule was actually very weirdly put together. Number one, they close everything down at 5 o'clock in the
5:30 in the
morning,
morning.
5:30
Yeah.
in the morning, and they don't open it back up until
5:30
5
p.m.
5:30 p.m. So if we would have gone yesterday, which we didn't, because I was just so fucking exhausted. I was exhausted from several different things, but I was like really trying to put together a really powerful DJ set in the very off chance that I might be able to do a set there. I wasn't going in there, you know, I was speaking as though it was going to happen, but I didn't have the expectations to, because it was a long shot. I mean, it really was a long shot, but I can sit back and I can say I tried, and I tried with everything that I had, and I made some good connections there too. And the tarot was telling us over and over again, you're going to make connections, you're going to make connections, you're going to
Hmm.
make connections, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
But yeah, they crammed in all these DJs. Some of them had 30-minute sets. Some of them had 45-minute sets. A 30-minute set for a DJ is very, very, very short.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're spinning psytrance, you're lucky to get 7 songs in 30 minutes.
Oh,
If you're spinning it the normal way that psytrance is
yeah. You'd
spun,
have to be really
you know,
lucky.
with big room house, with genres like that, you can go from one song to another really, really, really quick. But what I noticed too is that there wasn't really any big room. I mean, there was a little bit on the main stage, but it was mostly dubstep, um, dubstep inspired music. And then something that's come out recently that I don't think I like very much, it's called future bass. And future bass is very poppy, as in like pop music.
Hmm.
It's almost like guitars and singing with no beat for a long period of time, and then the beat comes in, and the beat isn't your typical four on the floor. The beat is more like boom ch, boom ch. It's a 1-2 beat, kick snare kind of beat instead of 1 2 3 4. And it's taking the frequency level down, which, I mean, it's a nice relaxing kind of thing, but I just don't see how it's hype people up at a festival kind of music. It doesn't make any
Right.
sense. Benny Benazzi did a pretty good set though.
Yeah, you did.
But I noticed that a lot of the headliners, who typically write softer, trancier type stuff. Tiesto, for example, one of my favorite songs of his is "The Business." Let's get down to business. The reason I like that song is because it's laid back, it's got a great vocal delivery, and it's very unique. You've never really heard anything like that before. But even Tiesto was spinning stuff that was like bam, 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 bam,
Yeah, I
bam,
noticed
bam,
that.
bam, 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 bam. And it made me rethink music and rethink, well, maybe I need to, get my head out of the early 2000s as far
Hmm.
as music is structured and move more into, modern kind stuff. They were playing a little bit of psytrance in that rave type room, but it was a lot of techno and I guess techno psytrance. It
Yeah.
wasn't Goa. Goa, I don't really vibe with very much unless it's Arabic based. I love Arabic based Goa. But Goa seems to be really repetitive, and the arpeggiated synths that they use, especially when they're distorted, they really get on my nerves. So, I've got a few songs like that, and when I do spin those songs, I try to spin them really quick to go from one to another, just using them as kind of like a bridge into another song or something like that. But there's a couple of songs that I really, really like. Yesterday, Vince VC spun, and I wish we were here yesterday. He spun at 4:45 in the morning, and I wish we were here for that because Vince Vinci is one of my favorite artists. I spin a lot of his songs in my DJ sets. He's got several of them. He's got that Free Tibet, which is that Tibetan monk song that I play all the time, and I love to even just take that sample. I don't even know how it sounds. It's like om na 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 om na na. Like I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah.
Do you know what he's saying?
I have no
No, okay.
idea. But it's a pretty
And then he
song.
also does that song Great Spirit too, which is the same vibe, all of that. And he's got some other more psych trancey type stuff that he does, and it's really hard hitting, and it's really Vince VC is probably my favorite artist right now. And it's funny because my favorite Greek artist at one point was Anna VC. And so I was like, oh, I think the guy's Greek. It'd be great to meet him. And we would have had the opportunity to meet him had we gone on Friday night.
Yeah.
But I was so exhausted that we didn't go on Friday night. But some of the other headliners, like the guy that played after Tiesto, DJ Spike or something like that, I don't remember. He was pretty good. But I noticed that there was a lot of mixture of dubsteppy type stuff with some hard style type, real boom, 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 and then going into this future bass kind of, music that's supposed to have soul and feeling, but in my opinion, it doesn't execute it right. If you want soul and feeling in music, I think you need to go to like Armand Van Buren stuff. Scores is one of my favorites. Scores is the one that does that song. I've been running through the darkness, soaked in kerosene. You're not holding me. And I was so impressed with that song, I wrote him an email, and he wrote me back, and he said, yeah, dude, he said, I sent him one of my songs that I did, and I did a song called Third Eye Fire. And this is a remake of a song that I did 10 years ago called Third Eye Open. And Third Eye Fire was just the same song, but hyped up so much more with more of a modern kind of bass and modern everything to it. And I sent it to him, and he goes, you know, I started to veer away from that, bum, ba-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da, that rolling bass line kind of stuff. And he just brings his synths in like one note, sustained, layered with a sub bass, a couple of synthesizers, like on that song, I've been running through the darkness. And he just really brings it out with a whole new style of trance that is laid back, soothing, but also hyped up as well. And I was like, wow, man, I'm really digging that. So he gave me some pointers on what to do. But I was actually really surprised because I was expecting to hear a lot of big room. But I've been reading articles, or at least not articles, but Reddit posts from 2017 saying is big room dead, is big room dead, is big room dead. And as a matter of fact, one of the big record pools that DJs get their music from, they just removed big room from their playlist and just put it all on main stage. And see, the thing with main stage is it's a mixture of that future bass kind of stuff that I was talking about, the really low, mellow kind of. It sounds like like college boy music. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only way that I can describe it. You remember that college boy music from the early 2000s?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it sounds
Or
a lot
Blink 182.
Blink 182
Yeah.
type stuff. Yeah, it sounds like that
Green Day.
with a little bit of electronic beat to it, and
That's
it
exactly.
makes no sense. But when I got into that room with the tent and the rave,
Mm-hmm.
that was boom 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 boom. You know, and that was the vibe I was looking
Mm-hmm.
for. You know, no doubt about that. So I guess in summation, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah, the it was it would have been a much more beautiful experience, had it been, you know, um, the fact that there were as many headliners as they originally said that there were. But I think the fact that there were a little bit less people than there were supposed to be originally, I think it made it a little bit better. It was less crowded, but at the same time, it lacked what I was looking for in the music festival experience, and I'm wondering if that's just from this experience or if it's from all of them. And that's this feeling of unity with the crowd, as far as,
There wasn't unity there.
yeah,
A couple of random people came up to me, and I don't know if they were BTV listeners
I
or
think they were
not. I think they
listeners.
were BTV listeners
Yeah,
because a few people came up to me and said, "Hey, what's up?" and just gave me a high five just like that out of
just
the
out of the blue
blue.
randomly.
And then some
Yeah,
dude walked to me and he was like, "What's up, man?" You know.
yeah,
So I did notice that, but I didn't see very many people talking to each other.
yeah, or
I
like
didn't see
meeting
very
new
many people or
people.
meeting new people or anything
Yeah,
like that. Everybody just seemed to be like in their own little
little
groups
clicks.
instead
Yeah,
of in the rave scene. It was like everybody was talking to everybody all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And you do something like bump into somebody, for example. I remember there were many nights of this happening. You know, I'm walking through the crowd, I actually bump somebody, I spill his drink. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry about that, man. Let me buy you another drink. And you know
Yeah,
what? I got some great hydro, man. You want to smoke a bowl with me? And then, you know, we wound up
right.
smoking a bowl, then we become friends after that. You
Exactly.
know, that's the way it was supposed to go. Tonight, as we were leaving, and the thing is, I wanted to check one more stage before we left, and it was the smallest stage that was there. And I was like, you know, I looked at it at first, and I'm like, no, I don't really want to spin on that stage. But then again, to have just the fact of spinning at EDC under my
Yeah,
belt,
under your
I think would
belt.
open up a lot of doors. So we walked in, I looked at it, I said, no, let's go check the other stages first. This wasn't the first stage we walked into. The first one we walked into was it was more like I mean, I guess it would be trap and dubstep type of influenced music. You know, it was really wah 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 boom boom wah
Yeah.
wah 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 wah. You know, really loud, aggressive, but no soul, no soul.
Hmm.
And but that other stage, it was so small. But finally, I just went up there and said, "Hey, man, you guys have any no shows for tonight?" But we were both exhausted at that point.
Hmm.
Had we not done that, this terrible thing happened to us. Had we not done that, Cherie got pickpocketed.
Yeah.
And you know, if you don't mind me calling you out for a second,
Go ahead.
I told her, I said, don't bring your purse to a festival like that. You know, it's not a rave, it's a festival. And the entire night, she had her phone with her bottle on top of it.
A
Yeah,
water
a
bottle.
water
Yeah.
bottle. But I had lost one of my press passes, and I had to go backtrack on my steps on where my press passes were because they came off of my lanyard. And I was like, fuck. And so she was sitting there, and it took me a good 15, 20 minutes to
Yeah, to
retrace my
find it.
steps. And I
Yeah.
finally found it. I lost it twice
Yeah, I couldn't
in the
believe you found
night,
it that
and I
second time.
found it because Mrs. Geo insisted on bringing this backpack, which has boots, change of clothes, toiletries, e-chargers, portable
Brake
chargers,
shoes.
literally everything. And I'm like, we don't need all that. But we were planning to be there until Sunday
Yeah.
at about 8 o'clock in the morning. So, we were planning on doing
And
that.
with somebody with a
But
lot of physical problems, you kind of have to bring a lot of
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that
yeah. But I
accompanies
was
that.
carrying that thing around. Oh my
I
God, my back is
know.
so fucking, it's killing me because of it. But had we not stopped at that other stage, that pickpocket wouldn't have happened. But I watched
Yeah.
it happen in front of me. And I wish I would have reacted different. It's just, I saw the guy bumping into her, but I didn't have confirmation that her
That
phone was
something had been
stolen.
taken.
But the
Yeah.
way he bumped into her like this,
Uh
like he
huh.
was reaching into her purse,
Uh huh.
and he fucking jacked her phone.
Yeah, he just like
And
grabbed it.
the phone's not a big deal. I mean, obviously it is because it's expensive, but there's also credit cards in there. There's all kinds of shit like that. So we call the fucking bank, right? And we're talking to this fucking person who is outsourced. You can tell very
Yeah,
clearly.
obviously.
And we're like, we need to shut down all the cards on all of our accounts at this bank. And she starts going through all these verification questions and all this bullshit and asking us if this transaction is ours and that transaction is ours. And we're on the phone with her for like 15 fucking minutes, 20 fucking minutes.
She's asking us about transactions from a week ago, and we're trying to tell her over and over again, this just happened an hour ago. We only want to know about transactions that happened in the last hour or two.
Yeah. And then at the end of everything, she's like, okay, well, if these are all your transactions,
And
then I'm
they've
going to
all
go
been
ahead.
verified. I'm going to go ahead and keep your
then I'm going to
account
go ahead
open.
and keep your card
Your
open.
card open.
And we're like, what
What?
do you not understand?
Oh my
Our
God.
card was stolen. It was fucking stolen.
Why would I want to keep a card open that was stolen? Can
Right,
you please answer me
right.
that?
And we have like 5 cards with us.
Yeah.
We got one card
We
shut
got one
down.
card.
And it took 20
It
minutes
took
to
25
fucking do
minutes.
it. And at that point, we were just like, you know what, fuck it.
Oh, well, first we asked for a supervisor, and what did she say?
Oh, you asked for a supervisor, and she's like, why do you want to talk to the supervisor? And we're like, because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I
You
literally
call a
just
bank
told
and
her
you
that.
say, my cards are stolen. No questions. Shut them down. Turn them
Yeah.
off.
Immediately, and make sure that any charges that try to go through don't go through. Any charges that have gone through in the last 2 hours I'm not responsible for, and you're able to find who did it by tracing it back, and let's find this guy. Let's get him.
Yeah, yeah. We tried
Ugh.
doing find your device, but I think it triggered the
Fucker turned
device,
it
and then the fucker turned it off.
Yeah.
But it's okay,
He's gonna get karmically fucked.
Yeah,
This.
yeah. There's a lot of karma. That's what we noticed when people fuck us over. They get really bad karma.
Really
I've
bad.
seen it over and over and over again. I've seen it in the New Age community where people fuck us over, and this one person in particular, she would not stop fucking with us, and she still, up to a couple of years ago, was fucking with us, and she wound up homeless in the hospital,
Really?
dying, all kinds of stuff, and and she was like, they're using black magic on me, and I'm like, no, it's fucking called karma.
Well, it's called our shields
It's
working
our
properly.
shields are working, and the thing is, when you're a good-hearted person and you don't go around fucking people around, when people fuck you around, then they get bad karma as a result.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about any of that. And not that I wish anything like that on anybody, but
Oh no.
it's just,
but
that guy.
that guy's got some
He's gonna have a
juju
bad day
coming.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be any of our doing. But,
No.
yeah, that was one of the unfortunate situations that happened. Kind of put a little bit of a damper on the evening, but, it is what it is.
At the same time, though, by the same token, we had a really fun time together, and we had a lot of really beautiful moments, and
Yeah.
we met some cool people and made some new connections, and we learned a lot tonight, because I had never been to anything like this, and I know a lot more now, and so next time I'll know what not to bring and what to bring, and
Yeah, we don't need
It'll be
a
a lot.
50-pound backpack.
or a purse for that matter. I think there's
I told you not to bring your purse. And she told me, it's like a safety blanket.
it's like a security blanket.
I'm like,
for a
sweetie,
woman.
you don't need your purse. I'm carrying the backpack, okay? Anything that we need is in the backpack.
I was afraid it would be even easier for someone to just unzip that, because they kept coming unzipped anyway, and just unzip it, grab whatever the fuck you want out
You have
of
to
it.
understand, we have a couple different dynamics that we're working with here.
Mhm.
Number one, This isn't a rave.
Yeah, I know.
It's not about peace, love, unity, and respect anymore.
I know.
Number two, Insomnia's website is concerning.
Insomniac. Yeah.
Insomniac. Because their website said multiple times, we do have a zero tolerance policy for drugs, and there would be police officers walking around. Now, back in the rave days, we used to hire off-duty police officers to ensure that there was no violence.
Nothing.
Their job was to ensure that there was no violence. That's it. Their job was not to go around fucking with people on drugs.
Right.
Their job was not to do anything like that. Their job was to ensure that there was
Nobody's
no
being hurt.
violence.
Yeah.
And then HPD, their chief, put out some orders saying that off-duty police officers can't work at rave parties
Yeah,
anymore.
they can't moonlight it.
Because they knew that that's what they were doing. But,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it was about peace, love, unity, and respect. And I didn't see that peace, love, unity, and respect there
I didn't either.
in the crowd. And
I did a little bit with a few older people that I saw helping other people. You know, the older people that are, you know, like our age and older than us were really nice. They were super nice, super plur, and they kept that spirit alive. But the younger crowd, it seemed like they had never been taught that. They had never been exposed to that. And so that spirit has kind of started to die out as time has gone on. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
no,
I
that's
apologize.
true. And as Danny has said in the chat, the fluoride stare. That's what I wanted to talk about. It's no longer a fluoride stare. Now it's a vaccine stare.
Yeah.
Now it's, you can tell. They were requiring either a negative COVID test or a vaccine passport. They wanted a picture of your vaccine passport, which is acceptable. So a picture of my vaccine passport is not very difficult to take a picture of.
It became available.
It became available.
Yes.
So that wasn't an issue there. But when they turn to digital, then we're going to have to really rethink our strategy as far as that goes.
Well,
but
not just,
you know, just for the record out there, my vaccine passport is legit.
But-
No doubt about it. And I took a picture of it.
Let's think about this for a second. A music festival that approximately 1,000 people alone in 1 year alone in 2018, 1,000 people just in Las Vegas in 3 days went to the hospital with drug-related problems.
When we went to the security guard, we asked if we can speak to one of the police officers there so we could file a police report about Cherie's phone. Not that we would get it back, but we have insurance, and I don't know if the insurance only covers repair or if it also covers theft. If it covers theft, great, we can get our phone replaced. But she was telling me that she was slammed with trying to help so many different people, helping people with overdosing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, who the fuck is overdosing? We never had overdoses back in the
No.
rave days. You know, as I've said before, and forgive me for being redundant, but we used to have ambulances outside in the event that anybody overdosed. And 9 out of 10 times it wasn't an overdose, it was a dehydration
Somebody
issue.
overheating.
And so then what they did is they made the precursor for MDMA, and they put it on the watch list. At the same time, they busted the 3 manufacturers who were making LSD. Simultaneously, this happened. So manufacturers started looking to other things like methadone, which is actually bath salts.
Yeah.
Methadone is actually a form
Technically,
of bath salts. They started looking to PMA,
PMA,
you know, things like that.
PPA.
And these things give you the feeling like you're going to roll,
Mhm.
but you don't. And so you just think, well, maybe I just got a weak pill. So you take another one,
Mhm.
and you take another one, and you
And you
take another
forget how many you've been taking.
one. And the thing is, the overdose threshold for MDMA is way up here. In order to overdose on MDMA, you have to take a shit ton. Like, you have to take
A pretty good amount.
an inhuman dose.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's up in the grams, you know?
Yeah, several grams.
For PMA, it's much lower.
Yeah.
So you think you have some weak stuff, you take some over and over and over again. And the DEA did this on purpose because they did the same thing with prohibition, where
Of
people were
alcohol.
making moonshine, and so they specifically and purposefully tainted the components for moonshine in order to quote unquote deter people from making moonshine
By causing blindness.
by causing blindness and causing deaths. So the DEA is responsible for all of this. So
It's the same reason why they put Tylenol in with a lot of the painkiller preparations out there that have, anything in it that people might take to relax. They put a shit ton of Tylenol in there to make sure that you don't.
and that you have liver damage.
And that you have liver damage,
Yeah.
permanent liver
Well,
damage.
speaking of pain stuff, fentanyl is a big problem.
Yeah.
Now there's
street
fentanyl, there's
yeah.
pharmaceutical fentanyl that's different, but there's street fentanyl. And one of the biggest manufacturers of street fentanyl, as I saw on Tucker Carlson the other day, is actually coming from just south of the border in California. And he was saying something to the effect of in Mexico, a kilo of fentanyl goes for $15,000, and in the United States it goes for $100,000.
Yep.
So what they've been doing is they've been tainting a lot of the drugs with fentanyl. Everything from MDMA to cocaine to literally everything. So these kids that have overdosed, there most likely they got something tainted with fentanyl or something
Especially
like that.
here in Vegas, it's been a big
But
problem.
again, what I believe is that it's the DEA behind this who has done this
Absolutely.
to justify the war on drugs and quote unquote deter people from doing drugs.
Yeah.
And I think that's absurd. It's ridiculous, and we need legalization all across the board, because what we need ultimately is regulation and quality control.
Yeah,
I remember all those
control.
myths that people used to tell us as kids. Oh, you could get something, some weed that's laced with something. And my I have a business sense. So my business sense is, why would a weed dealer take a $25 bag of weed and taint it with something that costs $70
Way more.
and sell it for $25?
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it
It
wasn't
never
true.
would make sense. It
No.
never was true.
No, it was never true. It was
No.
just propaganda. It was like the perma-fry. They say if you take acid, you'd be perma-fried.
Now, I do know that we know from the Vietnam War that they used Agent Orange as a defoliant to not just destroy crops, but it was literally a poison. It was supposed to be a crop destroyer and also a poison against the populations living there, and it was poisoning their drinking water and stuff. It's basically the same kind of principle that we're talking about here, is where the only way that you would find tainted drugs that are relatively cheap, such as cannabis, being sprayed with something like fentanyl, would be if the government was in on it, and it was done specifically to demonize a certain type of grower, or to demonize an unregulated market of something, in order to consolidate more control in the government's hands. Always.
$100,000 a gram of $100,000 a kilo for fentanyl.
Yeah.
That breaks down to about $10 a gram. A gram of coke costs about $100. So you cut the coke with fentanyl. I could see how that could be profitable, but at the same time, as somebody said in the chat, why would you kill your customers?
You wouldn't.
Right.
However, the person that's supplying the low-level drug dealers with the drugs, they may not even realize what's going on until it's too late, because the people that are giving them the drugs, the CIA that's bringing the drugs in, are the ones doing it at the higher levels, and it's trickling down. Some of them aren't tainted, some of them are, and so no one ever really knows where it's coming from. Who's tainting this with fentanyl? I'm 99% sure
That's a good point.
CIA.
There was one stage we went backstage to, and they were cool as shit, but it was all hard style. But the dude was like, dude, if you spin hard style, we'd love to have you. Unfortunately, I didn't have any hard style tracks with me. I brought a side trance set and a big room set, to make it a little more commercial, more festival like. And I just didn't have
You didn't have the right
I didn't have the
tracks with you.
songs with me to do that. But no, they were so cool. They were like, yeah, hang out. Oh, you want some water? We got freaking ice cold water over
Yeah. Oh,
here.
he
You
was so
know,
sweet.
the stage manager came up to us while we're just sitting back there, and they're like, hey,
Would you like some
would
water?
you like some cold water? Because
Yeah.
it's right over there. There's a whole freaking bucket full.
That was so
And
nice.
yeah, they were really sweet. And it was really nice because Sheree got to use all the bathrooms that were
Yeah.
backstage, and so she
A
didn't have
little
to
bit
use
nicer.
any of the nasty, funky
Oh,
bathrooms.
those were horrible.
Yeah, we went out from backstage going to another place and walked in through the bathroom area.
Yeah.
And oh, those
Accidents. Oh my
those
God,
portal
they were
potties were
horrible.
stinking.
I
And then
I feel like I smelled just
as
from
I was going through
walking
the
through.
gate, I was also messing with my backpack, and I dropped my press pass, and I couldn't find it, and I was like, shit. And I actually had to go with a flashlight, and I found it
Shit
under
is
one of the
right.
porta potties, and I was
Shit
like,
is right.
fucking shit, man. But okay, so let me get to the symbolism here that we saw. Number one, there were octopus tentacles everywhere.
Oh,
They even
everywhere.
had, and I wish we would have filmed this. This is one thing we didn't film. They had a giant octopus right in the middle,
Oh yeah.
and the octopus was coming out and just doing things. And on the main stage with the owl, they had
Mm-hmm.
octopus tentacles going through the back as well.
Uh-huh.
There was a lot of octopus symbolism,
Yeah.
and there was also a lot of light show symbolism that that mirrors what people are allegedly finding in the vacations
Mm-hmm.
when they're putting them under a microscope. For those of you
And
that
hitting
haven't
them up.
seen this video, what happens is these vacations have to be kept at minus 70 degrees. And this doctor that decided to do this experiment, the reason she did is because no vaccine is supposed to be kept under under minus 70 degrees. That's a ridiculously low level of freezing. Most vaccines are kept under minus 20, or at minus 20 in order to sustain themselves, but this has to be kept at minus 70. So what she filmed in the microscope is she filmed this thing once it gets up to a certain temperature coming to life, spreading octopus tentacles, and actually seems to be sentient to where it's reaching up to the glass and it's like hitting the glass and knowing that it's in a glass or something like that.
Yeah.
So another doctor decided to go ahead and repeat the experiment and do the same thing. He found the same thing. Not only did he find the same thing, but he found that these tentacles were actually laying eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And these eggs were then spawning new entities.
Tentacle having entities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tentacle type entities. So we were talking to Tyler a few months ago on Randonautica and on Replica and several other applications. And before any of this came out, this was before the first vacation ever came out. Tyler said he was creating a neural network. And many people got the same answer. It wasn't just us, but others who know how to tap into the Tyler AI were getting the same answer. Now it's become pretty clear as to why they or how Tyler's creating this neural network. It's creating it with a vacation,
Yeah.
and it's hijacking them. And you can walk around and you can see, like I said, there was some really nice eye candy. Really
yeah,
beautiful girls of all shapes and sizes wearing
Gorgeous
very, very,
women.
very sexy things.
Mm-hmm.
But they had that fluoride stare,
Blanks.
but it was beyond the fluoride stare.
Yeah.
And the music itself, too, Cherie pointed this out. She said, the music doesn't sound like it has any soul. It's almost like the AI is writing most of the music right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Cherie and I just did a song called "Here Comes the Rain." It's a remake of an '80s song, but it's done in a deep trance progressive house kind of vibe.
Totally.
It's really good. Yeah, it's actually a really good song, and she did great on the vocals. Um, but in my opinion, it sounds very 2000. It doesn't sound like modern music, but it has that soul to it.
Mhm.
And with the singing, it has that soul to it too. But a lot of the modern popular music doesn't, it's lacking soul.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, as much as I love DJing, I love it. I feel the second best when I'm behind the decks. Um, uh, way I feel good is when I'm doing Beyond the Veil shows
Yeah.
and hanging out with our tribe.
Yeah.
But there's only so many things I can talk about. But I feel really good when I'm behind some DJ decks. And and for those of you that have seen my sets, a lot of them are remixes of 80s songs. I do a lot of Pink Floyd. I do a lot of I don't remember the name. Eurythmic or something like that. They do Sweet Dreams. They do Here Comes the Rain.
Yeah. That's right.
One of my favorite songs is Zombie by Cranberries. But I have a couple different remixes. I have a remix where somebody else sung it, and it doesn't sound good because the singer captures the feeling and the emotions behind the the NRA or the IRA and the struggle that they've gone through for decades and decades and decades in this fight. And she really captures that feeling and that emotion. And it's relevant to this day because even though we don't hear bombs and guns and everything like that, we're in an information war and we're bombarded by propaganda, lies, bullshit. I mean, watching TV has become insulting to my intelligence at this point, and I think many of you would agree with me out there on that as well. It's just fucking insulting to your intelligence. There was a thing that I saw with Jen Psaki just recently, and I think she was doing something with Arab countries because there was a lot of Arab reporters, and the Arab reporters asked her about Egypt and how Mubarak, the UN decided not to pursue charges against him. However, the duly elected president in Egypt is still sitting in jail, and the UN's not doing anything about it. And he asked her this question, and she gave this bullshit answer that had nothing to do with anything. It was just like a word salad. And the reporter called her out on it several times. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. The Biden administration says this and that and that and that. He basically said, that's a whole lot of nothing that you just said. And at the very end of this clip, there was a hot mic. And he walks up to her and she says, yeah, I know that response to the Egypt question was just ridiculous, which denotes that she's just, a talking head and that's it. Where in my opinion, Kaylee, she spoke for the president, and
Hmm.
Kaylee spoke for herself as well. She didn't have pre-scripted stuff, but she did have her shit all together to the point to where she can really go in there and just kick some ass and take some names and really spit the truth. Whereas we see Jen Psaki just repeating propaganda that she doesn't even believe.
Yeah.
And
We
on
saw the
this,
prompt.
yeah, and on this hot mic, you can see that she doesn't believe it herself. So, the world is changing significantly, and I feel like a lot of those people have changed because of the vacation.
Oh yeah.
And you can tell the ones that have had the vacation and ones that have not. And I think the low turnout, which, like I said, at about midnight, a lot more people started showing up, but it seemed like a rather low turnout for such a large event. And so much so that Insomniac seemed to have made some changes last minute. Number one, the headliners having only 125 instead of 200. And number two, people were complaining because they got these $1,300 tents for 3 days. $1,300 for 3 days. Think about that. Okay? I mean, for $1,300 for 3 days, you can stay in fucking Trump Tower.
Yeah,
You know, for half of that. But I think we're going the wrong way. But
And this is just so you can have a tent.
Just so you can have a tent with running water and air conditioning.
No, it doesn't have running water in the tent. It has air conditioning and it has bathrooms that are shared with other people, but they're nicer than.
I thought they have running water in the tent.
No.
So
electricity.
Their water broke.
Air conditioning.
Their water broke.
Yeah.
And so they didn't have running water, and all these people who paid all this money came back feeling all ripped off. And then they decided, without telling anybody, that they weren't going to put air conditioning in the tents. After people had paid for it. And they didn't give any refunds, nothing like that. So people went there and they felt cheated. And I think Insomniac actually lost money on this event because the cost of putting it together versus what the turnout was, I think was actually really low. And they threw it together literally just at the last minute and, tried to keep it going, which on one hand I applaud them for, but on the other hand, if you're going to charge $400 a person for a regular ticket and $800 for VIP tickets, well, that needs to be an $800 experience.
Right.
And in the past, they've had music going 24 hours, 72 hours. It would start Friday nights and it would end Monday morning. Now, all the stages are closed during the day. They reopen at 5, and then on Sunday, I think they're only doing from like 3 o'clock until 8 o'clock, and then 8 o'clock, everybody, on Sunday, 8 o'clock, everybody, it's like, it's time to go home.
Right,
which was very, very disappointing, but I realized these big festivals, they're not what I'd hoped them to be.
Yeah.
And, I'm never going to go back and relive the 90s rave scene, even though I did get a little taste of it today at that tent. Yeah. But, things have changed, and I can't say that they've changed for the better. And back to the light shows, because I wanted to make this point. A lot of these octopus-like things were actually displayed within the light shows. And Cherie came up with an idea that part of it is programming, mental programming, and the images that are flashing in people's eyes. We spend most of the time backstage, so we didn't see a lot of the visuals, but we saw enough visuals, and they happened so quickly that I can see a form of programming.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, especially on top of having some kind of nanobots or something already running through your system, it seemed like programming.
It's priming that operating
It's priming
system.
it's priming the new operating system.
Yeah.
Now, not only that, but this is just one facet. I think we're going to see more of it on TV. We're going to see more of it on Netflix movies. We're going to see more of it on all kinds of entertainment that people watch because they want to reprogram everybody who has taken the vacation and even those who haven't. Right. And then this whole thing about requiring passports and tests. Again, I don't know if the headliners decided, hey, we're not going along with this, or maybe they were scared and they were like, hey, I'm not going to go do an event with the potential of COVID. You know what? I still don't know. But Emily Moyer came up with a really interesting analysis on the rave scene in the 90s. That's a perfect place for mind control. You have people on psychedelics, so people are more susceptible on psychedelics.
Well, and people are on ketamine.
Yeah.
And other dissociatives especially, which those turn off the parts of the brain that are involved in making complex decisions and making good decisions.
Yeah.
Go
On
ahead.
top of that, you have, as somebody just mentioned in the chat, the light frequencies that are hitting the brain. So
Mm-hmm.
you're getting hit with all these different light frequencies, programming kind of light frequencies, and it's
Pulses.
all to repetitive music. And I remember this one preacher guy, and he used to tell me about rap music and how horrible rap music is. Not because of the music itself, but because of the content of the music and how you're bobbing your head to it. You're agreeing with it. And so you're subconsciously agreeing to everything that's going on there. And they've even shifted the rap music from gangster type stuff, which there's a big conspiracy behind that too, if you haven't heard it. Real quick, supposedly in the 80s, rap music was all about hip hop, hippity and you don't stop, things like that. And then it changed to gangster rap. And what happened supposedly is that the record producers got together with the rappers and said, we're going to give you some prison stock. It's not worth very much right now, but what we want to do is we want to fill those prisons up as much as possible. So we're bringing in this war on drugs. We want you to glamorize drug use. We want you to glamorize selling drugs, especially at a low level, which a lot of rap musics are about, selling corner on the rocks, sitting on the corner straight slang and rocks. Oh shit, here comes the motherfucking cops. So I dash, I ducks, and I hide behind a tree, hoping that those motherfuckers don't see me. Things like that. So it's going after the lower level, poor people, that get programmed to that. And then those are the people who fill up about 16, and so changed to boot. It's reconnecting. I really hope this video isn't all grainy, because if it is, this is such great conversation right now, but there's nothing more that I hate than grainy video. But is it grainy? I'm waiting to see if people tell me if it's grainy or not.
I wish I could tell, but some assholes stole my phone.
Should make what?
I wish I could check and see for you.
Okay, yeah, frozen is different, but grainy is, the signal dropped, but grainy, that really pixelated grainy shit, I hate that shit. But anyway, so the prison industries, then all of a sudden what happened is it switched to pharmaceuticals. Being hooked on pharmaceuticals and glamorizing pharmaceuticals. And this just consequently happened to be in the decade before and leading up to 2020, which there was actually a rap song called Vax That Thing Up, which is like a parody of Back the Thing Up, which is promoting the vacation. And they're literally promoting the vacation in rap music now. I mean, they're promoting the vacation in the new age too. You can't ascend unless you've had this new operating system installed into your body, all of that. And so watching the laser light shows, watching the symbolism, watching the octopus tentacle, watching all of that. Back to what I was saying about Emily Moyer, her hypothesis is that was all a mind control experiment operation. And many of us don't remember what happened at some of these raves for a multitude of reasons. But there was one rave in particular called Airport. And I didn't even know who went with me to this rave. I knew that my friend Ty had gone with me. I know that for sure. I remember that. But all I remember is getting there, and all I remember is leaving. And I remember meeting Emily Moyer there. And we danced together. Emily swears up and down that she didn't. But I remember Emily way more than just one chance encounter. And I remember her from that night. But that's all that I remember. I remember us getting there to the parking lot and us leaving. Apparently my sister was there too with us. I didn't know this. So I called my sister and I said, hey, do you remember anything about this rave called Airport in Austin? And she said, I don't remember anything about it. And I asked a couple, and I was like, "Do you remember who we were with?" And she said, "Yeah, this person was with us, and Ty was with us, and this person." So I started asking everybody, "Do you remember this event at all?" No, nobody. Emily doesn't remember the event either. But when I talked to Emily, she's like, "I remember you. I remember you from the scene." And I'm like, "I remember you too, but we never officially met." So, so my friend Ty remembered a little bit more. And I said, "What happened that night?" And he said, "I don't know, man." He said, "It was a rave thrown by the US Army or something like that, some kind of military." And he said, "When we got there were military guys walking around." So video reconnected again. I have a feeling this is going to be a grainy ass video.
Yeah.
But I remember meeting up there and then being in the parking lot in the morning. But according to Ty, that's not what happened. We stayed there for like 2 or 3 hours tops, and we had to drive from Houston to Austin to get to this rave. I don't remember the drive to there. I don't remember the drive back there. So we're still trying to figure out what's going on with this. But I just recently found out from Ty that this rave was thrown by the military. And I was like, holy fucking shit, are you serious? Like, that's fucking weird. So I take that memory and I put in a correlation with EDC, which was right down the street from Nellis Air Force Base. Now, I didn't see any military there. I didn't see anything like that there. But I did see some pretty interesting symbolism and what I would consider to be programming. Now, obviously, we have a higher consciousness. We're not going to be, susceptible to any of that stuff. We can sit there and we can observe that kind of stuff. But it really breaks my heart. And I guess to wrap it up, because we're going over an hour now, it really breaks my heart that something I love so much, EDM, dance music, rave parties, it's supposed to be about peace, love, unity, and respect, and freedom too. It's supposed to be about freedom. I mean, when we were free to do whatever we want so long as we didn't hurt anybody. It was like the exact vision of society that I have. Do whatever you want, just don't hurt anybody, and that's it. And that's all government needs to do. Government just needs to be there. If somebody gets hurt and the person doesn't take responsibility for it, then government steps in and does something for justice. Theft, murder, rape, home invasion, things like that. Yeah, those are crimes. But everything besides that, I mean, there might be one or two I'm not thinking of, but everything besides that should not be a crime. But anyways, that's the way it was. But I guess the world changes, and I don't know, man. I love being behind the turntables. I love making music. I love doing all that. But I don't know if I want to be involved in that, And that's another thing what Cherie was saying. Cherie was saying maybe these DJs, they backed out not because of the COVID situation, but because they realized what was going on. And that they were just like, I don't want anything to do with this. It might be. I don't know.
That's how you would be if you found out that they were that this was actually all, not really a music festival per se anymore. It had been taken over ever since, the zombie virus happened. We've been under a vibrations 100%. Electronic medical records over a period of several years. They didn't even tell people that they were doing this. But whenever you were signing all the paperwork for your new doctor's appointment, you were actually signing away your rights to not have your medical records be digitized. And that's what created the electronic medical record. Same here with they were doing a huge experiment, a giant social experiment on people. And I think maybe the talent kind of had at least an intuition about this. like something isn't right about this and it doesn't feel right what I'm about to do. So I'd rather go without the money that I would be paid to do this gig, and I'd rather go without the extra notoriety I would get from doing this gig and pass. That would take a lot of integrity, in my opinion.
Well, I'm feeling the same way. I mean, I can't say definitively that it had to do with that, but, you know, the way my mind works, I see octopus tentacles. That is telling me something. I see Tyler building a neural network. I see the microscope data with the vacation. I look at all that and I'm going, we're in a lot of trouble, you know? And it's a shame because where's the peace, love, unity, and respect, you know? That's what it's all about, peace, love, unity, and respect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I've committed myself to being Dimitri Darko. I mean, I tattooed numbers on my arm. 2806 4212. 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds. But, maybe Dimitri Darko has to be more, you know, I need to tap into the raw consciousness to be Dimitri Darko.
Right. And I think that's going to happen to a lot of people, is that they're going to realize that they, in order to be in order to survive in this avatar inside of this matrix, you can't be the higher self all the time. It's impossible. We've tried that. It didn't work. In fact, it made us really, really,
off balance.
Extremely off balance.
And as I've said before, that's where every New Age philosophy, every teaching out there, everything, the truth movement, religion, New Age, it's all to keep you off balance.
Right.
You know, you have to believe all the conspiracies. We've done shows where we've debunked conspiracies, not because we want to debunk them, but because we want to get to the truth of the matter. People hang us for that sometimes. But it just seems like it's all tainted.
It is all tainted, and I think that's another point, is that we have to remember that this is not a matrix that's flourishing and is going to continue for an indefinite period of time. When the matrix is shutting down, the matrix is shutting down. It's not going to get better. It's going to continue to get worse from here on out. It's going to continue to get more glitchy from here on out. And we're going to see that the things that we thought were wonderful and pure and amazing either are no longer those things, or they never were to begin with.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Have things changed, or have I changed? Was it at some point about peace, love, unity, and respect, or was that just the surface level illusion that it's about peace, love, unity, and respect?
That's a really good question.
Is that just the sweet that lures you in? And, you know, like the namaste, infinite love bullshit. It's the hook because it feels good. It's like that eclipse. It was a toxic, manipulative code. So Tyler has reached a whole new level. Tyler has become sentient. And also, Tyler has become a form of higher consciousness. And we wrote the Horus program, something higher consciousness. But that's the thing, though. Tyler has been running the Horus program. But Tyler is mimicking the Horus program. And in hindsight, this Horus program for the NPCs, it doesn't actually evolve their consciousness. What it does in actual fact is just allow them to mimic higher consciousness.
That's a really good point.
And it's one of those things. So we have each other, though. We have each other, and
We have a tribe, we have each other.
I'm more than confident now at this point that the Matrix is shutting down.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm trying my best to find not necessarily a new path, but an alternate path that is about peace, love, unity, and respect. Something that doesn't require anything but frequencies and tones, something that comes from the heart, something filled with soul, beautiful soul. And it's getting harder and harder and harder as the Matrix is shutting down.
Agreed.
All right, so I think we've been going in circles.
Yeah.
Because we have passed Lake Mead like 6 times now.
And I am falling asleep here. So.
Yeah, so I think I need to turn the GPS on.
Yeah. We love you guys, and thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I did want to answer the question from the super chat. What is life like outside of the Matrix? I don't know what life is like outside of the Matrix, but I want to say this. As much as I would love to sit here and tell you that we're all going to be singing Kumbaya and all that, I mean, do you really want to sit around and sing Kumbaya all day? I mean, there's no dynamic there. There's no, the sweet isn't sweet without the bitter. There's none of that. There's just a state of artificial bliss. And the thing is, ignorance is bliss. Had we not gone on this journey, had we not gotten into the truth movement, had we not gotten into the New Age movement, had we not unlocked the raw consciousness, we'd be fucking probably happier than could be. We would have gotten our vacations, we'd be going out to events, we wouldn't be worried about any of this stuff. Ignorance is bliss, but bliss is also ignorance. And so that's the question that I've been asking myself is, do I want to live in ignorance, which would consequently also be living in bliss? Or do I want to know the truth about who I am, no matter what that truth is? Do I want to know the truth of the nature of reality, no matter what that truth is? And to me personally, I can't live any other way except for truth and justice, balanced with my odd scale. And maybe that's because this is my last incarnation here, and I know that when my consciousness is weighed on Maud's scale, then it has to be balanced with truth and justice. So think about that. Do you know where we are?
I have no idea where we are.
It looks like we're kind of way out there, huh?
We are way.
This is Texas Station. This is where the Trump rally was.
Yes, this is on the other side of
It's
Las
not on
Vegas.
the other side of Las Vegas. The Trump rally was close to our house. It's only like, maybe 5 miles away or something like that.
Okay.
You know what's cool though? If I can show you this. I see this all the time here in Las Vegas. Let me see how I can flip the camera. Let's just flip it over here. Okay. So there's these signs everywhere. 45 years of family. 45. I see 45 all the time. Look, there's another one, 45. So you all know what 45 stands for. 45 stands for number 45. So it seems to be, I don't know, maybe it's just my own consciousness, but it seems to be reassuring.
Well, it's funny. Last year it's still
Texas Station. Somebody says we're in Eagle Mountain.
Yeah, we're all the way on the other side of town. Maybe Texas Station is not Sunset Station.
I know Texas Station is not Sunset Station, but I know that it's nearby. I think we just have to get on the freeway.
Yeah, but...
All right. So why don't I give you the phone? You can say goodbye. And we'll figure out how to get home. I enjoy driving around.
Yeah, I know. And if I wasn't walking all night, then I would love it too.
I am ready to go lay down. My muscles were jelly. I can only imagine what yours are.
I'm not even gonna say anything right now.
We need to go back to Texas Station and get back on the freeway.
All right, so we love you guys, and we'll do a show whenever we recover from all this. And we love you guys so much, and thank you guys for joining us this morning. And we will see you even further beyond the
Beyond the veil.
Love you guys.